Alright, let's watch this. This is something I'm personally interested in because I don't know who this is, but the video was 4 days ago and it said Classic Plus isn't being made for you. WoW 2 was coming and it's not Classic Plus. It's what retail gets to become once Classic Plus exists. So I thought that was interesting. Let's watch it.
You already know what Classic Plus is going to be, right? Junior dungeons, the old unfinished zones, garrison crypts, a retribution paladin you're finally allowed to bring to the raid. You're wrong. And not even in the small way. In the way where the thing you've been waiting for isn't even being made for you at all. For years, whenever anyone asked Blizzard whether there would ever be a World of Warcraft 2, the answer was some version of the same thing. Not now, maybe never, we don't need one. I think they're building one right now. I think it's called Classic Plus or Camelot, and I think it exists so that retail can finally stop pretending. Let me get the boring part.
There is a part of me that thinks out of spite, Blizzard's not going to call it Classic Plus. Like, just out of spite. They're just going to give it some name.
Out of the way first. Like, I'm not spending 10 minutes telling you something you already believe in. Classic Plus is coming, and it's called, internally at least, Camelot. 29 encrypted builds since October 25, on a branch of a client from July 2006. License entries found in June, heroic and epic. And back in January, Holly Longdale said we'd get clarity on Classic's future at BlizzCon. Then got
Let's
4
go.
words into an announcement before someone just cut her off.
And that's not all we're cooking up. I can say with confidence that all Classic players across the globe have a lot to look forward to. I'm really excited to announce that... I guess we'll save that for later.
You know all this. The community solved it months ago. So here's the part nobody says out loud.
They know we know.
Tears don't prove ambition. Burning Crusade had heroic and epic upgrades. So did Wrath. So did Cataclysm. $30 or $80, I don't know. Those were re-releases. The same game with a new coat of paint sold in 2 tiers. So the data mine gets you to, it's a paid release. It doesn't get you to, it's a big one. So which one is Camelot? Call the small version Classic Plus Lite, the community wishlist. Vanilla again, plus 2 new dungeons, the unfinished zones finished, a balance pass so your Retribution Paladin finally gets his raid spot, a better vanilla, but still just vanilla. So will it be Classic Plus Lite or maybe something else entirely?
That's where I have hope. I have hope that it's something else entirely. I just hope it's something completely reworked. If they went the route to let's have old style design with newer graphics, I'm completely cool with that. I don't need an Unreal Engine 5 game. If I would like the dungeons to be completely new, I would like the way that builds play, the builds or the classes play be new as well. Maybe not a complete rework, right? Not to where it's just completely unrecognizable, but that everyone's sitting on like a fresh tier and people already they don't know the optimized way to level, hit each zone, hit this dungeon this particular meta way. I would like where there's a period where if you start when it comes out, everyone's on a fresh, we don't know what's going on path. Like we're on a path to where we don't know and we all have to figure it out. That's what I want.
The files can't answer that. Nobody sleek can. You have to actually reason about it. So let's reason about it. Why would Blizzard build a second version of their game, even when they've spent a decade explaining why they don't need one? And it's not like they've never tried. Back in the Burning Crusade era, Blizzard quietly started building a second MMO, codenamed Titan. Not WoW 2, a new world entirely, staffed up at the height of WoW's success. 7 years and $80 million later, and it collapsed without ever becoming a game.
I didn't know
The team
that.
that survived got 6 weeks to pitch something new. The wreckage became Overwatch. That's the scar tissue behind every "we don't need a second one" answer since they built a second ship once, and it sank in the harbor. In 2024, game director Ian Hassakostas was asked directly whether there would ever be a WoW 2. His answer wasn't no. It was a philosophy problem. Theoretically, at some long distant point down the line, that may be a question we grapple with seriously. We are constantly tearing out some old foundation systems and replacing it with something that will scale to support a new server architecture, to support new graphics pipelines. That's the ship of thesis. Replace every plank one at a time, and you never ever need a second ship, because the first one was never really one fixed thing to begin with. It's a genuinely good argument, and for 20 years, that was the real answer. WoW 2 is being built right now, one plank at a time, inside the ship called Retail WoW. But run that forward, 20 years of plank swapping, and you just gotta ask the question, where is the new ship? And the old one? Show a 2006 player a screenshot of Retail today, let them play it, and they wouldn't recognize the game.
The first pull of the dungeon is massive. 2 gatekeepers, every pack of mobs available to be tagged within range, and of course, the first boss, Blightbone. With Bloodlust and every offensive cooldown active, the group peaks at nearly 80 million DPS, destroying every enemy, including the boss, in less than 30 seconds. Importantly, the group also needs to use nearly every defensive cooldown. 2 rounds.
That's what I would like to get rid of completely. The blow and the meta. The predetermined, optimized way.
Paths of Zoroarmus casts being channeled by the gatekeepers in addition to the Heaving Wretch from Blightbone could easily one-shot a player in the group if they were to also get targeted by a random Throw Flesh cast from the myriad of enemies in the pull.
No new WoW ever launched, and the one that exists isn't the one anyone remembers. Somewhere along the way, the wrong planks went in. And that's the weakness in the whole argument. It only works if you don't keep the original ship.
What the hell was that little thing?
Which brings up the real question. If we're going to sell people vanilla again in 2026,
Well,
what
little
exactly
goblin
is it you think
running
you're
around,
selling?
dude.
Not the graphics, not the class balance. Nobody is nostalgic for 45-minute mana breaks. It's 4 things. Progress that's slow enough to be worth something.
Yep.
Progress that doesn't get deleted next patch.
Yes.
A world small enough to have a story you're actually inside of. Local conflicts, a war you can walk to, instead of another galactic god. And this, you see somebody at level 5, 15 levels later you end up in a dungeon with them by accident, and you recognize the name. They've helped you with a quest once, and so you hand them over the item you just won on the roll. That's what people remember about this game. Not, I cleared the Mythic Plus dungeon in 22 minutes and 31 seconds and got item level 253 bracers with 302 haste. Nobody remembers that. When people think back on the good old times in the game, it's the connections, the random encounters, the name you started to recognize, never the numbers. And that's one of the things Blizzard thinks retail players are afraid of losing. But in retail, it was lost a long time ago. And that's exactly what Classic Plus is being built to hold and preserve. And here's the question that's most relevant right now. Why build this now? Why 2026? And no, Classic hasn't just been sitting there since 2019. Season of Discovery was the test run. New abilities and old classes.
100%. When they announced Season of Discovery and what it was, the first thing I thought was, oh man, they're about to test out they're going to throw shit at the wall, and if something sticks, they're going to take that and incorporate it into the next game.
New raids carved into old zones, new content inside Vanilla's world. For 2 years, Blizzard tried to figure out what worked and what didn't. But notice what Season of Discovery was. A season. Included in the subscription. Temporary by design. And notice what Camelot is. A product, with price tags in the files. That's the order you'd expect. You run the experiment first, then you build the thing. But the big thing. Which brings us back to the ship. Blizzard kept the original. Now they're rebuilding it and putting a price on it. And the moment the old ship exists as its own product, the new one doesn't have to pretend anymore. Look at the timing. Classic Plus lands. Most likely in 2026. The last Titan will be announced at BlizzCon as well.
Yep.
The expansion Chris Metzen called the culmination of the first 20 years of World of Warcraft storytelling. Arrives around 2027 and runs for roughly 2 more. And that's a 3-year window where both things are live at once. Classic Plus and The Last Titan. And I don't think retail stops being the flagship. I think this is the cheapest chance Blizzard will ever get to find out what WoW should be. With one version holding the thing people are afraid to lose, and the other one finally allowed to move. Because look at what retail is still carrying. A leveling phase nobody wants to go through, because it's pointless. You start as a god, you finish as a god, nothing is a challenge. You level so fast you can't even keep up with reading the spells of a new class you wanted to try. So you pay for the boost and skip it, you pay a boost to whatever, and Blizzard happily sells you the skip button for their own game. And at max level, the same shape repeats. In PvP, grind honor for the blue set, so you can queue ranked for the epic set until the checklist is done. There's a clear path for creating your character from start to finish, and it's been the same formula for expansions now. No item on the way is exciting because you know exactly what you get, and you never feel its impact. If it isn't replaced within the next 5 dungeons, it's gone next season anyway, so...
That's what made me stop playing, was the seasons. I felt like once I got halfway to catching up, or I felt like I finally caught up, boom, new season, and then I'm running around and getting better gear in a fucking Mythic too.
Why care at all? Leveling and gearing in retail is friction, but not the good kind. Not the kind that makes classic rewarding. It's not challenging, it's not exciting, it's chores, it's doing laundry. You know the path, you know the outcome, you just have to put in time. Those systems stopped pulling their weight years ago. But Blizzard can't just rip them out. They are the last plank of the original ship still on board. The moment the original exists as its own product, they can. And that's Classic Plus. And there's a second effect. Somebody who's heard for 20 years that WoW was special, who wants to know what all the fuss is about. Where do you send them? Not to Expansion 12, not to Midnight, not to The Last Titan. Chapter 12 doesn't explain the phenomenon. And today's new player experience is so confusing and so flat that most people who come looking just bounce off before the game even starts.
Very true.
You just send them back to the front door. Here's the thing, Blizzard might be about to make that question a lot more common. Remember that
I would say that they're not really there to pull in new people, they're there to just hold on to what's left. But it also feels like they're at a point to where they don't really care to hold on to what's left. They're just doing this for the heart. They do what they do for the hardcore meta players. For the top tier hardcore players, the sweaty guys, this is the only game they play. That's who they make the game for.
leaked roadmap, Camelot isn't the only thing on it. There's the new Warcraft RTS and Arthur's ARPG, both set in the old story, not the new one. And Netflix is reportedly back at the table with Blizzard, after a lawsuit killed the first round of shows. None of this is announced. It's a leaked document and some reporting. But the Camelot data mine just confirmed a core entry on that exact document, which makes it a lot harder to dismiss. So just assume for a moment that it's real. Play it forward. Say even half of it lands. Millions of people meet Warcraft through an RTS, an Arthur's game, a show, and then they want the world those stories live in. Where does Blizzard send them? To retail, where nothing is left of Arthur's, where the story stopped making sense 5 cosmic threads ago, where the first 10 hours are the worst part the game has to offer? Or to the original World of Warcraft, rebuilt and filled in. The world people fell in love with in the mid-2000s, the one that became a cultural phenomenon in the first place. That's not a hard question, and Blizzard knows it. The obvious objection would be, this is a niche. Why would Blizzard spend so much time and resources building a game from 2004? Nobody wants slow anymore, and nobody wants to play a game with strangers anymore. Alright, I've got you, fair point. Let's look it up. Steam charts, go to more. Counter-Strike 2, 800k, Dota 2, 689k, PUBG here, Palworld, Bongo.
Oh. The hell's Bungo Cat?
Most of them drop you in with people you have never met. Rust has progression in PvP,
Bungo
Palworld is an
Cat.
RPG, and the other 2 or
He
3
just
or
skipped over it.
whatever that was. So the argument nobody wants to play with
Wallpaper
strangers
engine.
isn't pessimism. It's just wrong. Millions of people do it every single day, which leaves the other half of the objection, that nobody wants slow. Except the biggest genre story of the last 5 years is probably survival games. And survival games are slower than, well, almost everything else on the market. Look at the loop. You start as nobody, with a wooden pickaxe. Wood gets you stone. Stone gets you copper. Copper gets you iron. And iron gets you into the area that would have killed you an hour ago. Feels familiar? That's gray items into greens, into blues, into epics, and just moving from zone to zone. That's vanilla Sloop wearing a different costume. Different name, different art, same machine. And Shrouded sold 1 million copies in 4 days. Powerworld broke Steam records that had stood for years. Millions of people are voluntarily choosing a slower game than the one, like so many people say, nobody wants anymore. There's one thing those games can't give you though. You play them with people you already know. 4 of you, if you're lucky maybe 16. Strangers never accumulate. Nobody becomes familiar. That part only an MMO can do. And that's the part Classic Plus would be selling. And you can even see it in their own game. Hardcore.
Bro, he nailed it. I didn't even think about it like that. Playing Enshrouded, and what was the little demo of the pirate game? Wind Sails or something? That hooked me in. I was like, wow. These survival games, these crafting games, I've been missing out on. This is so much fun. And then I was like, let me play something a little more fast-paced. I've never tried Guild Wars. Let me try Guild Wars 2. And I've been loving that. But, like he said, the classic version, it's a reskin of the classic version that people want that slower grind. And if they're willing to just play solo or with a couple of their friends, how much more fun would it be in an open world? Because you don't have to play with anyone. Like, if you made it to where it was, you got that satisfaction you get from a crafting and survival, in that, you could run around and just do your own thing forever, and then team up with someone.
Life, no safety net. It started as a community rule set that Blizzard eventually made official. And it produced the biggest thing WoW had done on Twitch in a decade. OnlyFans pulled 3 million hours watched in a single week. Rolling Stone covered a vanilla death as a cultural event. Nobody watched it for the item level.
Shout out to Soda Poppin'. He pulled that together. Tyler 1 made it entertaining. Definitely made it entertaining. And then Pirate Software. He was the villain. He was the villain that everyone loved to hate. That was actually pretty
BlizzCon
epic.
Is September 12th. You know, these are predictions.
Only things
so
was
I'll
epic.
Just skip the percentages and just tell you what I think Blizzard is doing. Classic Plus is not nostalgia season. It's being built to become the essence of World of Warcraft. The front door. The place you send someone who played the Arthur's game, or watched the show, or just always wanted to know what the fuss was all about. Paid release, new content in Old Azeroth, no story chain binding it to retail. That's the shape I expect. And you can hold.
And that's a pretty good point. I feel like he's spot on too, because isn't that what RuneScape did? When they made old school RuneScape, that's what pulled everybody, or everyone went to see what RuneScape's really about. And if they went to go play RuneScape 2 or whatever other shit that they have, cool. And they can keep progressing and making their new games. But old school is that solid core game that they do updates and they do patches still, but they're very involved with the community on what they do. And that's why everyone loves it. It's people are still playing that, and it's crazy. Like, their numbers are still going up.
Me to it in September. And retail finally gets to move on. Bigger steps, its own identity, free of the old systems it thought were load-bearing, and that turned out to be just ballast. One more reason the timing is no accident. Riot is building an MMO. The day that ships, Blizzard needs to answer to why World of Warcraft? And with Classic Plus on one side and retail that's finally allowed to change on the other, 3 years from now, they'd have to. The bigger claim that Classic Plus exists so that retail can change, that one BlizzCon won't settle. That's a bet on the next 3 years, not on a keynote. I'll make the follow-up either way, including if I'm wrong on every count.
Hey, that was pretty good. Give them a like and a subscribe. I think that was a very good point. They're making the core game. They're making the core game, and they're going to move on from WoW after The Last Titan to whatever WoW 2 or whatever they want to call it. That's what people are saying. First video, damn, you knocked out the part. Yeah, he killed it. Thought this was a classic creator. Dude, wave to a player running by, made me LOL. That shit was funny. I'm from the generation that played EverQuest, Anarchy Online, Star Wars. The finally vanilla WoW came out and blew our minds. Nothing can capture what it was like to play back then. The collective excitement watching the competition for the world first, the magic of a world that wasn't solved. That is exactly what I'm saying. That is what makes it. It's a compilation of things that make me not want to play. The major issue is everything's optimized, everything's solved, there's set metas, and then the second piece is the season. So what's the point? Oh shit, I haven't been on in a little while. Well, what's the point? If I just wait a few more weeks, then they're going to reset and I'll just get fresh gear then. I'll just play the next season. And then the next, I kept missing seasons, and then I was like, I might as well not even play the game. What's up, Orange? How you doing? But yeah, that was a really good video by him.